This is a story about searching for forgotten fortress. Most of them spread out on mountain tops or cliffs, hardly to be found. There are plenty of such remains scattered along the Yangtze River region. Some were military outposts, and others were private residences in the old days. And most of them were buried in time. In this episode, we made a trip to Wanzhou in Chongqing. Along the way, we passed through skyscrapers and all those modern infrastructures in search of those old fortresses far away from that big city.
I think I need to use both my hands and feet to climb up these stone steps.
A few years ago, I read about such ancient fortresses in a magazine. Maybe they are still there, probably they have long gone, collapsed and fallen into pieces. Taking this curiosity and a slight fear of missing out with me, we were asking from passing people and local villagers, trying to find out any possible clues on those remains.
问一下那边有个箭楼在哪儿了？
那个修烟，把大炮来这个把它轰到那。
哦，那我照一下，在前头去挑个头。
Well, out of surprise, the first response we got was not so encouraging. So far, everyone we met in this village seems had no idea about its specific location. Some even said those caves had already gone.
哦，没地的。哦，你们晓得那个洞在不？
Am I just too late to come? Maybe they have already gone. But we didn't give up and decided to continue moving forward until we met this grandpa.
以前那个躲强盗的时候，那个洞仔，
你看不见，没开发真多好。我们小时候在那里。
哦。
然后那矮呀，那边有个洞，还有这边的矮更矮呀。哇，我们上去，我都是小时候上去过的。我们搭那个四壁坝，纹的跟那房子一样，硬是都吹得多好。
Very fortunately, when we arrived at this village, we bumped into several villagers. They are very welcome us to find this location, and they are guiding us to the top of this mountain to find the caves. This place was surrounded by these weeds and grasses, trees.
The villagers took their farming tools with them to help us clear the way.
Those branches are shaking.
The fields appeared to be flat and open. When I actually walked into it, it turned out to be so rugged and difficult to cross. And it was truly a new experience for me.
Finally, I saw some holes on this cliff. Like there, I don't know if you can see, there is a little window on the rocky cliff.
In the old days, the vertical rock surface of the cave fortress made it quite difficult to attack without heavy artillery, and the people inside can get well protected.
This fortress was built totally based on the terrain here on the rock mountain, and the lower part of this cliff is the archery tower for pointing the guns when the bandits is coming over. The upper part of this cliff is the place where guards and families took a refuge there.
A number of small holes cut into the rock wall were used to hold wooden sticks, creating a hanging walkway that served as the only entry to the cave. After centuries, the majority of wood has weathered and rotten.
那以前那个修的话，是一个乡村的人一起修吗？还是某一家人自己修的？
解放前，解放前或者是私人了。私人都是或者大地主啊、财主啊，那个是有崩了的嘛。土回来他都放到那里面去懂啊。
他躲得到好多人了里头。
哎呦，这种那也几个房子的嘛。 半个地洞我上去过，好像住了10多个人呐，那个嘛，他更是打得多好看的。我也是石匠， 你看我都佩服他那以前那些工人。
根据你的经验，那个打一个那个洞要好久哎？
我怕想人。你吃不嘛？这个随便吃，这么多，我们那家乡这个看。这个是好像。
啊，谢谢。
没事，不用，多的是。
那个是啥子橙子？
可能是也是玫瑰香，要带红。玫瑰香橙，玫瑰香味。这个有点那个阴山可能有点酸味的。
The cave fortress' unique location makes it extremely difficult to conquer. Despite its natural defense, it fears a protracted siege because the food and water supplies are completely cut off. Even worse, if the enemy burns in flames to smoke you out, it will be extremely difficult for the people hidden in cave to endure it. Villagers did not advise us to go deeper into the base of the rock walls, as it was currently heavily forested. So we eagerly moved towards the second fortress in another village to find the field with a mysterious name called the Land of Killing.
哎，你好，我想问一下，那边是啥人田不？那哈儿？
哪儿呀？那边呢？
业主没有改。
业主该有个，我们小时候去耍过的，他抬猪脚来照顾哎。
是好久的耶。
那不要去哪？
要得，谢谢。走嘛。While we arrived at this village and asking for the location of the fortress on the cave, we're very lucky to meet one old lady. She knows the place, so now we are following them, walk on this road full of rocks and collapsed stones. It's not very easy to walk through. It was built almost on the edge of the cliff, this very narrow road. The stone road is almost going to collapse.
The cave fortress here was established in the late Qing dynasty, in the late 19th century, to escape from the chaos of the aggressive gangs at that time. Those who don't have the chance to hide in the cave, that could be most of the people in the village, would be killed by the furious gangsters in the paddy fields, so leaving behind the name, the Land of Killing.
Now in front of me is a very steep stone steps. It's almost vertical on this cliff mountain. Now I'm climbing up on it. I think I need to use both my hands and feet together. But it was built quite well compared to the behind the road. It's like a high-speed road to this fortress.
Unlike the caves cut into the cliff wall, the fortress here was built based on the shape of the rock. Only a small section of the wall and some stones have been left now, from the narrow path up to the mountain and the steep cliffs. We can imagine how tough it was back then. I believed if there were any enemies, they would be scared of the rough terrain and return in vain. Today, there are no more chaos threatening people living here, so original intention to build the cave fortress has been slowly falling apart. Our third fortress was said to be the most visual and preserved one we had explored so far. It was built in 1852, with the fortress like a ship outside and a watchtower inside the walls, making this fortress a dual defense system.
Now I am walking on the second floor of this fortress, and this fortress was surrounded by a circle of this kind of stone walls. This wall encloses a watchtower inside. Look at this. There are a bunch of holes on the wall of different sizes and different location on it. Like this hole was carved on the upper side of this wall. And in front of me, there is a smaller hole on the bottom of this wall. All those holes on this wall here are for keep guardian or pointing guns at the bandits and the warlords who were coming over at that time. Now I am walking on another side of this circle of wall. This circle of wall is the first line of defense system of this whole fortress. Inside there's still another higher watchtower. When the enemies broke through this gate of this fortress, when they get inside, there's still another line of defense system waiting for them, is this watchtower.
As we were about to leave, we met a villager who had come here for a walk on the fortress. He was involved in the renovation of the fortress before and was waiting to take me into the watchtower for a bit of tour.
原来走那上头那个走廊那车砖，那个房子修起的时候都走那平面跑那车砖都跑得转，那些个全部是原来的那个石头。原来的平面还有砖墙，砖墙上去还有一层楼，楼平面还有1米多高。
This is the last line of defense system for this whole fortress, but they also take it very seriously. Like they designed this door for this watchtower as a very narrowed one. Let's go inside. It can only pass through one person at one time.
那个门的话啊，你一般关到那个后，你哪打得进的嘛？那个石头都是原来的。 就是那一个柱子个是换了的，那个柱子个遭腐蚀到换了的。下头是上杠，把门给关到那个后，就是那个棒棒，那个穿的头，那个头灯。
哦，原来是那个作用。
是这样的，把那门给关到它，一抽到那个你都进得不到噻。像那个方面那些地方，弄刀啥子刺进来也夺不到它。 一个人家一个老大爷修的，修到过后，他那个是都是为了夺棒的。他如果是有啥子万一有啥子问题了，就往那头跑。一般的时间他那头都没有住人。他一般他有几个季节的是突伏的时候。
哦。
平时他在荒原的时候，它就来强噻，平时它不强噻。
On the third floor, the roof is relatively lower than the downstairs. The height is about 1.7 meters.
我们在有5、6岁、7、8岁的时候，在读小学了嘛。有时候没有事，跑这个那这里转来转去，到处跑。
把这当个游乐场耍。
啊。
Look at this. Look at the mountains outside.
In those days when the rules and orders were fragile and laws seemed so far away from everyday life, a strong fortress was established here. The fortress was like a solid law with entity standing here, instilling hope in both the invaders and the villagers that there were still orders here.
Just now, on my way up the hill, I thought this place has been totally restored or renovated as a scenic spot because of all the asphalt roads and steps and the railings along the way. But when I stepped into this gate of the fortress, I realized it was totally different. I am now walking on a small avenue in the forest on top of this fortress. And along this path, there are those walls for the fortress beside me. They had been piled up with some stone bars, surrounded with weeds, moss, and some branches now. Outside them is the cliff. It's quite dangerous.
This was our last stop, and unlike the others, it was a fortress built on the flat top of the mountain. People used the natural cliffs as a wall, created several gates on different directions, and set up barricades in the passes, transforming the entire mountain into a fortress. At the same time, this fortress was also a habitable town. Looking at those collapsed stones and forested roads around us, it really feels like walking back in time.
Since there are no more bandits or wars, so there's no one's living here to maintain them, most of the buildings here, like the walls, have been dilapidated and some of them collapsed. It is said the remaining walls now stretches only 400 meters. This gate behind me could be the best preserved one we've seen so far. And there are also some words on top of this door. It says 高瞻远瞩, which means you have a long-term view. And look at these holes for the door latch before.
Things go fast in the world. New buildings and products appeared upon frequently, while the old fade away over time. These fortresses had been engaged in violence, and as a result, they were alive due to the defensive function. When they lose their message, they will slowly be buried in time. Just as the fallen flowers lay scattered on the ground, the dusk might fall before my dream was found. When the wheels of history run over, it drifts us away from the time and space we originally belonged to. The flesh and blood turned into ashes, the mighty and despair works decay.
Shine a light on all that's hidden, strike a match to what's forgiven, do the best with what we're given. Come on now, amen, let's live in love is where we start. We are stars, and the light shines where we are. We are stars.